This is day 16 of building $1 billion business in public, so without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Now, as always, we're going to start off every video by getting into YouTube Q&A, where I'll answer your guys' question that you leave in the form of comments. So if you want me to answer your question, please comment down below. Second, we'll get into the topic of today's video, which is selling before you build, how to actually do that and what that really entails. And last but not least, we'll get a little bit into strategizing, specifically for the main channel as well as the daily channel. Now, for those of you who have no clue what's going on, welcome, my name is Bago, and this is my daily channel, so my second YouTube channel. I have a main YouTube channel, which is Bago Official. If you just search it up, you'll see it. But let me just give you a quick intro for those of you who don't know me. I started off as a regular dev in robotics, you can see right here, back in 2017, where we won our first Los Angeles Regional Championship. I was the sub-team leader as well as the team strategist for this specific team. From then on, I went into UCLA, specifically the Elegance Mind Club, to research human consciousness. From UCLA, I went into NASA as a computer engineer. From NASA, I went into the Fortune 500, where I worked as a software engineering consultant, and I got to consult for these companies, plus around 17 more. And then after quitting my Fortune 500 job, essentially I went from junior to manager, I quit, and I funded my own consulting firm, AB Analytics. This is what I run to this day, and this is what's close to 10 million in annually recurring revenue. We are currently shy of about $2 million, but we will do that by the end of the year. So I skipped a lot of wins, even more losses. If you want to know somewhat the full story, go to my personal website. It's about.go2co.com. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So as always, let's start off with the comments. Let me refresh the page to make sure we got everything. Okay, perfect. So Christian Tech Lead asks, what's the best frequency for communication, throughout the day or at the end of the day? This is, I'm guessing you're referring to cold emails? Or just in general, frequency communication? Generally speaking, this is what you want to do. So let me just put down the days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right, Saturday, and Sunday. Most of the time, you want to be reaching out during 9 to 5. Okay, so 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. because this is generally speaking when most people are going to be alert and paying attention to their emails or their inboxes, whatever. This is also largely dependent on if you're cold calling them, if you're sending a LinkedIn message, if you're, shooting an email. If you're going to shoot an email at their work email, generally speaking, it needs to be in this time frame because that's when they're going to be in the office checking it. If you're going to do LinkedIn or something else, you can go a little later, so from let's say 9 a.m. to say 8 p.m. range, and maybe sometimes even sooner than 9 a.m. But generally speaking, if you're in this time slot, you're good. Now, rather than the time itself, it's more important for the day. Most often than not, I have found from my own personal cold emails, I have gotten, by analyzing the data, the most amount of conversions Mondays and Tuesdays. The least amount of conversions Fridays and Saturdays. Nowadays, I don't even send any emails out on Saturdays, unless it's a very specific type of campaign where it's not going to be a work email. But generally speaking, I don't send out any emails on Saturdays, and the ones that I do send out on Fridays, they don't get opened until the Monday when I sell the follow-up anyways. The highest conversions have stemmed from me sending Monday and Tuesday. Now you might ask, why don't you batch all your emails to be sent Monday and Tuesday? Well, I personally think I still haven't done enough volume to be so confident to say that I should only send it out Monday and Tuesday. I believe to get to that level, you need to send out at least millions of cold emails to be able to ascertain that in general for all industries and for all situations, that would be ideal. From what I've seen, I think if you just send out Monday to Friday, you can maybe even front load it Monday to Thursday, honestly, and on Friday you can send out the least amount if you want to, and then you skip Saturday and Sunday for at least emails specifically, you will be good, and then just keep it 9 to 5. Now, sometimes if you're going to do an Instagram DM, if you're going to LinkedIn DM, you can do Saturday, Sunday, but once again, it's going to be dependent on if you're sending it to a work email or what type of an outreach you're really going to be doing. Hopefully that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't. I can expand more on the next video. Smoothie asks, how many employees do you have for AB Analytics and how much time are you spending on it per week? What's the growth strategy? Great question. So we actually cut down our workforce a lot due to AI recently. So we're back down to about 5 full-time C-suite execs and myself included, so 4 others outside of me. And then we also have 5 just full-time employees. full-time employees. Now, we have a bunch of contractors and part-time people that we work with. Really depends on when, but in terms of me paying out a salary, right, it's these 10 individuals and I'm included in this 10, so 9 outside of me. We actually cut down a lot because AI allowed us to replace most of the bottom end of the workers. All I really have now in terms of the people managing the project, so these guys are mainly project managers as well as people fulfilling, and honestly most of the fulfillment now is on contractors as well as part-time individuals. And the C-suite, obviously, they do stuff that AI wouldn't necessarily be able to do. So more about strategy, growth, finances, all that stuff, it's with the C-suite. AI can help with them, it does help with them, but it can't completely replace our job. In terms of growth strategy, so, oh wait, how many hours do you spend on it? So in total, I work about 14 to 16 hours a day, which is relatively, I mean, it's not the healthiest thing you could be doing, but I do work in sprints. So I'll do like 3 months of like 14 to 16 hour days, and then I'll have about a month where I'll work like 40 hours a week and I'll take a leisurely trip or something along those lines. Usually for that 1 month, I'll actually be traveling and I'll be working when I'm traveling. So I get my rest periods in. But the 14 to 16 hours of work that I'll usually get done in a day, most of it, about 8 hours of it, will be contributed to AB. The rest will be either like gym, because I consider that work, obviously. I don't consider that like leisure time. Gym, it will be this C2C, right? And a few other things, in particular, other ventures. I can afford to spend about 2 to 3 hours a day on this, frankly, but that would mean that the company would stop growing. Now, for me to actually get it to keep growing, I need to put a lot more effort into it. But if I want to just maintain it at a specific base level, I can afford to get away with 2 to 3 hours timeline. That being said, right now our growth strategy is, as you probably already saw from the last video, we are heavy on cold emails right now, and we are in the process of creating ads. So for most of the time, we've been operating on a local scene. For the first time, we're trying to expand across the nation and start getting clients outside of LA and outside of just Southern California. There are mainly 2 reasons for this. After the fires, we took a big hit. So in January, our revenue took a big hit, and we kind of realized that it's not the smartest idea to have all our eggs in one basket, in a sense of when the fires happened and all the businesses were struggling in the area and many weren't even operating, we took a big revenue cut, and we realized that we can't afford to have this happen next time, because God forbid something similar happens, we don't want all our revenue to be dependent in one location, such that an earthquake, something happens, we're out of the game. Now, we recovered, we bounced back, but we decided that we need to have at least multiple sources of income. So it's still the same business, but at least let's say we have a source of income from LA, from Miami, right, from New York. At least if a fire happens in LA, we still have these 2 revenue streams coming in, okay? This is largely one of the reasons we decided to expand. Second thing we decided to expand was because of AI. So the growth strategy right now is we do everything we can, and we only hire. So we have a strict hiring rule now. It's like we only hire if we desperately actually need somebody. The first thing we ask ourselves is, okay, can this be done by AI? Yes, no need to hire. No, what can be done by AI? And then we'll take a look at what percentage of that job can be done by AI. Can we pass it on into somebody else that we already have that's already working? If so, then we don't hire anybody. And if we can't pass it on to somebody else, then only then we will look to actually hire somebody that will be more appropriate to that. So we're trying to increase our margins, and as a result, we're trying to lower our costs. Hence why this entire thing came into play. Also because since the majority of our revenue got cut in January, our margins also took a very big hit as a direct result of it. And I already talked about the margins, how it's not the highest, right, 45 to 55%, really depending on the project. So that's why we're making all these changes. For the future, I believe once the ads start picking up, because we haven't launched any yet, we're still building those out. Once the ads start running, and then our cold email campaigns, they're honestly performing very well right now. Once we start scaling those two to about, millions a month, let's say, in terms of how many emails we're sending out, I believe we can easily break $10 million in annual recurring revenue, and honestly, I could say break 10 million in annual profit. So this is ideally the goal. If we get to 10 million in profit, which would mean about 20 to 25 million range in revenue, right? So if we can get that by the end of next year, which I believe is very much possible, so by the end of 2026, that'll be phenomenal. And honestly, we don't need too big of a team. We can have a pretty lean team with what we're doing now. Now, fulfillment side, we cut down by a lot, and we're actually doing better than ever in terms of fulfillment because we standardize everything, all the SOPs, everything's working phenomenally now. So this has been the strategy. Hopefully that answered your question. Let me know if you want more information. Perfect. So with that out of the way, let's get into the topic of today's video, which is selling before you build as a software engineer. Now, this video is largely inspired by recent events. So a few individuals in Code to CEO, when I asked before joining Code to CEO, what was the biggest problem that you had? Outside of finding out what to build, their main problem was, how do I sell it before I build something? Because I don't want to spend time building out a solution to A, not get paid for it, or B, for the person to back out of it and say, oh, sure, we agreed on 10K, but I feel like this is only worth 2.5K. So how do you go about selling something before you build it, especially when it comes to a SaaS? Now, keep in mind, I'm not only going to be discussing a SaaS, right? But I'm going to use SaaS as an example because in my opinion, it is the hardest one to sell before you build it. A service, you get paid for it up front and then you provide a service. So I'm not going to talk about that. Even a physical product, like with dropshipping, right? You can sell it and then you can fulfill it. But with a SaaS, it's usually instantaneous. That time to delivery is very short. Like they're expecting to go on a landing page, paid, and then you should instantly send them the details, right? So we're gonna use SaaS as the hardest example because if you understand how to sell before you build with SaaS, you can sell before you build with anything else on the planet. So with that, let's get straight into talking about SaaS. And keep in mind the same thing's gonna apply to service-based or whatever it is you wanna do. So SaaS falls into two categories. You either have B2B or you have B2C. Now you do have B2B to C. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to focus on B2B or B2C. B2B, if you're not familiar with, simply means business to business. So you're selling a software to businesses as a business. And then B2C means you're selling it business to customers. So singular individuals. You can do clients too, business to client, business to customer, doesn't really matter. B2B SaaS is largely for enterprises, okay? And then B2C SaaS is what most of you are familiar with, right? I'm trying to think of like the most recent one that's gathered a lot of hype would be Cal AI, right? Taking a picture of your food and then it shows you the calories. That would be an example of a B2C. The reason I didn't put Facebook or Snapchat or those guys because those would be a little bit of both. What I mean by that is Facebook is for the consumer as well, but also for the businesses to run ads on them as well. So they are a little bit of a unique situation. We're not going to use them as an example. And frankly, because you starting off, you're not going to build out a Facebook or anything of that sort. Now, why is B2B and B2C, like why do we even want to differentiate between them? Why did I put them into different categories? Is there a big difference in selling before you build? Yes, there is. Generally speaking, B2B, it's harder to sell before you build. Now, as always, there are exceptions to the rule. However, if you are going to a multi-million-dollar business, an enterprise, and you're going to offer them a B2B solution, they're going to want to see the product, okay? This is very different from a startup when preceding rounds and not having anything yet and then getting people to invest into it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm strictly talking about, let's say you want to go to a law firm right now and sell some type of a SaaS. In order for you to convince them to give you the money before you build out the SaaS, that's going to be significantly more difficult than you having some other type of, let's say, productivity app and trying to get people to pay you $5, $10 for lifetime access to it beforehand. So largely, the contention behind this is the price. B2B will be a lot more expensive. Hence, people will be a little bit more hesitant in paying you before you build it. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily impossible. Usually what ends up happening is you have a contract-based payment, meaning they might give you 10%, or let's say, I'm just going to use arbitrary numbers, but the main point here is, main takeaway is a small amount, 5 to 10% of the total price upfront as a deposit for you to potentially build out an MVP, and then from that MVP, tailor it into a finalized product. And once that product's been, let's say, built, you can get the rest of the payments. Or most often than not, businesses will also have milestone type payments. So you can, let's say, get the first 25% once you hit this milestone, and then 30% once you hit, let's say, this milestone, and so on and so forth from there, okay? For B2C, it's a little different. B2C, it can be something as simple as you can have a landing page with, honestly, a form to collect people's information, or even a simple Stripe link for people to get to sign up on a wait list, or get them to sign up to a beta, have them pay $5 to $10 or something, and then send out the details weeks later or months later. Depending on which route you're going to choose, each one has its own unique strategy. But both of them, the fundamentals stay the same. What are the fundamentals? Fundamentals are as follows, okay? You need to be an expert at what it is that you're going to be creating. And more specifically, you need to be an expert at the problem. What I mean by that is, if, let's say, I've been in an industry for 30 years, I have insider knowledge about the industry, I know everything about how it's going to work, and I have an idea. I have an idea of a SaaS that I think would be really good for that specific industry. Doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C. I want to create it, but it's going to require a lot of money and a lot of time that I currently don't have. So what I want to do is I want to get people to pay me the money first for me to get validation before I invest any time into creating it. I need that expert knowledge, because with that expert knowledge, I can even, at a bare minimum, get some Figma designs done, right? If I can get some Figma designs done, if I can have somewhat of a business plan, if I can at least explain how the solution will be delivered, if I know exactly who my ideal customers are, how it's going to help them, how much it's going to cost, the more information I have about this, the easier it's going to be to sell it. Why is it going to be easier? Because as long as people see and they can trust me, so they need to like and trust me enough to know that I'm knowledgeable enough about what it is that I'm trying to create, okay? So the product itself doesn't have to necessarily exist. You are always the product in this specific case, right? Because people are going to buy from you if you don't have anything to show for it. An example would be, let's say I am trying to create, I don't know, let's think of it this way, some type of unique CRM for hospitals, okay? I can have the Figma design done for that specific, let's say, CRM. I can have a proper business plan in place. I can have the solution delivery in place. I can know who my ICP is, and I can approach actual hospital owners and, primary C-suite executives, founders, co-founders at these hospitals. I can approach them and I can show them, look, here's a Figma design. I've been in this industry for 20, 30 years. I know exactly the type of problems you guys face. I know what we have to do, how we're going to have to do it, and this is how much time we're going to save. Most often than not, let's say you're reaching out to 100 hospitals, one or two of them would take the risk of, okay, this actually sounds very good. You have a lot of knowledge in this. You're relatively knowledgeable in these other aspects too. I believe if we front you, let's say $500, $5,000, $50,000, or whatever, for the MVP, that's a quick little deposit, and then you can work with us to build out a finalized solution, that will be perfect. Most often than not, you can even get into an equity type of deal or IP rights type of deal where that hospital will be the sole owner of that software, or you can at least you can give them a little bit of equity. You can go that route. However, if let's say I wanted to make a LinkedIn competitor, and I wanted to sell this before I build it, it would be almost impossible for me to sell this. Because LinkedIn is already so huge and they already have so many features. Even if I went to somebody with a Figma design, they're going to want everything to already be there so they can sign up and start using it. Because at its core, the LinkedIn thing is going to be very low ticket, right? And also, we already mentioned how LinkedIn is technically both B2B and B2C. It's for us to use as customers, but also businesses can use it to run ads as well and hire people. So it's a little bigger in scope, it's a little bigger in its niche as well, hence why it will be much harder, nearly impossible, to sell a LinkedIn competitor before one actually builds it, at least an MVP, okay? But if it was something like, let's say, a customized CRM for something else, you can easily get away with like a Figma design. Most of you watching this are going to be going this route anyways. You don't even need to worry about this. And honestly, this is an illusion for most individuals. Let's explain why in future videos. But you can go this route. What I highly recommend is whenever you have, let's say, an idea you want to sell, you have a concept of a software that you want to create and you think it might be successful, you think it might be good for a validation. What I want you to do is ask yourself a few things and go down a checklist. The first part of the checklist will be, are you an expert at what it is you're trying to create? So not, are you an expert technically, can you create the software? Are you an expert in the niche or the industry or whatever type of problem you're trying to solve? Can you solve it without the SaaS? Can you solve it even by just consulting somebody, right? Are you an expert at it? If yes, you then move on to the next one. Are you able to mock up a simple Figma design, let's say, on what the software or anything would look like, guiding through the entire flow process? Yes, okay, then you can move on to the next one. Do you know who exactly your ICP is, the pricing point is going to be, how they're going to find what it is you're selling, what type of avenues you're going to go, all these questions? Yes? Okay, then move on to the next one. And that's actually when we start reaching out to individuals. And the way you're going to reach out to them is very simply. You're going to give an introduction to who you are, build some credibility as to why you're the person they should be talking to. You're going to introduce the Figma design to showcase the idea and the solution as well, and then you're going to present them with the actual facts. This way, specifically, if let's say you come to me to, this is also true for both investors as well as people buying your stuff. If you present them with all this information, then I will give you the benefit of the doubt and actually pay at least a deposit or a contract or take equity or whatever, some type of deal to work with you. Because if I'm in the same space, if you're solving a painful problem for me, and I see the potential of you solving that pain for me, right? If let's say I am, God forbid, I have some incurable disease, and a doctor comes up to me and says, there's this trial thing, we haven't started it yet, it can potentially get you rid of your disease. Here are the details for it, but we're gonna need money up front for it. And even then it's not necessarily guaranteed, but you do have a higher chance of going with it, then I'll still give the benefit of the doubt, especially if that doctor's credible, likable, trustable, to give my money for that. So a lot of this, what people don't seem to understand is this doesn't necessarily have to do with your product itself. Okay, product is a very small part. This all has to do with how you approach this, how likable and trustable you are. I know that's probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but this is generally, this is just how the world works, right? I can sell the shittiest product to somebody that likes and trusts me. Now, sure, after I sell it, they won't like and trust me afterwards, but for that initial sale, I most definitely can if I really want to. Hence why whenever you're gonna sell before you build, you first need to understand how to build rapport. You need to understand how you do these things. And the way you build rapport and actually get people to trust you is through these things. You identify you're an expert at the problem. You do the bare minimum of some Figma designs, especially from a SaaS perspective. You draw out a proper business plan, you understand the solution delivery method, you understand your ICP, you understand how much money it's going to be, everything about it from A to Z, the customer journey, and then you can present it to whoever it is you're selling. So the best example I can give you of how I actually sold my services in the very beginning, back when I finally realized, okay, this is what I can offer to individuals, which was specifically the data analytics consulting, right? The way I sold it, because first and foremost, I need to first sell them on the opportunity, and then I need to go in and set up the data intake and all that stuff, and then wait a few months, collect the data. It's a long process, a 6-month long process. But I had to sell all of that up front, right? Or at least put them on a payment plan. The way I did that is I had everything drawn out, right? I went on a call with them. I took a 1-hour-long free call with them. I identified all the bottlenecks in their business, and I specifically pointed out, here specifically, we can set up this system to gather data. Based on what the data says, we can make this decision ASAP. Over here, this specific case, we can change this. Let's say it's a specific landing page. Yes, we can change this copy here, which would change the conversion rate. So what I do essentially is I show my credibility on that call by showcasing that I can in fact solve your problem. While I might not have a specific solution for you right now, I can customize that solution for you. And as a result, here's my plan for how I'm going to do that. Here's how I'm going to deliver the solution to you. Here is why you're the perfect fit for it, right? Why this will be specifically for you and why I'm even doing this, as well as the pricing point that I'm going to say at the end. And the only objections that I really got were about timing, this and that. Because initially I was a little iffy on the timing. I said, oh, it might take like 6 weeks, it might take 8 weeks, it might take 12 weeks. But now it's just a firm, anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on the type of project that we're doing, but we have a firm timeline now. So that's how you can go about it. This is the simplest way you can sell before you build. And in all honesty, I highly recommend you only sell before you build. You don't ever build anything unless you have sold it. Now, building, what do I mean building? I mean a full-fledged product. A Figma design isn't a full-fledged product. Even in some cases, an MVP isn't a full-fledged product, okay? So if you can get away with creating a small MVP or creating Figma designs to sell it for a bigger price point, do so. Don't laze out on that. However, at the same time, don't spend all your time on building out a full-fledged product if you don't know anybody's going to pay you for it. Alrighty, with that, let's move on to a little bit of strategizing. So let's first take a look at our daily channel. We did have a decent amount of growth, actually. We should be at over 140 subs. It seems our most recent video actually started picking up a little. Yeah, we're getting a lot more viewers. That's because of impressions. Impressions are very good, but our click-through rate is horrid, once again. But this is kind of normal because YouTube probably tried a new audience-based cold viewers that might not have been too familiar, hence why the click-through rate is a little lower. But we are getting good enough impressions, which is really good. That's pretty much the daily channel. Daily channel, we're going to continue as is. Everything's been going great. It's just if you guys want to leave more comments, please don't be shy to. Just leave more comments. I'm going to answer them in the next video. As for our main channel, let me refresh the main channel and then see what's happening here. So our main channel, our views have dropped, and that's because our videos have been a lot more specific towards our ICP now. So what we're doing is we're pulling back on a virality aspect and we're honing in on our specific, essentially target audience. You can see that the videos do have a much higher view duration as opposed to beforehand, right? In this specific case, you can already see that. But our views and our impressions click-through rate have gone down comparatively to before. That's because we're making content that's for a smaller group of individuals. You might see the views and you might be like, oh no, this is bad. I won't lie to you, it is a little concerning seeing this, but at the same time, we do have a plan, we're going to stick with it, we're going to see what's going to happen, right? End of the day, this is what it entails. Testing, and then getting feedback and then iterating. Outside of that, I believe that's pretty much it for now. Let me know how you guys enjoyed the cold email video that I did. This one right here, I pretty much just exposed my entire cold email campaign. Let me know if you would like to see more videos along those lines. And if not, doesn't matter, whatever the case, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.